Hey guys, my name is Carmen Mohan and I own a tax firm and have been in the tax industry for 7 years. Do you know that 85% of Americans do not know how to fill out their W-4 form? Everybody has a job, and when they go through the human resources part where the human resources agent is asking them to fill out their paperwork, they all get this W-4 form, but almost nobody understands how to fill it out. Let's break this down really simply. First and foremost, the W-4 form is you telling your employer how to tax you. That's why it's so important to figure out how to fill this form out correctly so that this way you're not overpaying the government. If you receive a refund every year, that means that you overpaid in taxes throughout the year and you're getting a refund of that overpayment balance. That means that most people overpay on taxes because most people get a refund. Let's fix that problem today. Let's stop overpaying the government and let's figure out how to break down this W-4. Make sure you watch this video. If you have any other questions, leave me a comment below and make sure you also like this video. So as discussed, I want to break down how to fill out this W-4 line by line and make it really simple for you guys. I know when you look at this form, you look at a bunch of numbers and there's a bunch of words you probably don't understand here. So let's break it down line by line to make it really simple for you to fill out this form. Remember, when you fill this form out, you are telling your employer exactly how to tax you. So I want everybody to start out at line A and put a number 1 for yourself. For lines B and C, it wants you to put a number 1 for married filing joint or a number 1 for head of household. If you are unsure of what your filing status is, I want you to put a 0 here. If you are a co-parent who possibly every year or every other year claims a dependent or doesn't, I want you to put a 0 here as well. Because what happens is you may need to go back and change it every other year. For line D, it wants you to enter a 1 if you're single or married filing separate or married filing jointly, always have one job, or if your wages from a second job or your spouse's wages are $1,500 or less. I want everyone to put a number 0 next to D. If you are single and are just one person, you can put a number 1 next to D, but I suggest everyone just put a 0 next to D because it makes things very simple. Let's move on to E. In line E is a child tax credit. I would like you to put a number here for every child under 16 years old that you have and claim as a dependent. You may have a child, but if you are not providing support or this child lives with you and you will not be claiming him or her on your tax return, then you would place 0 here. Now, if you have 2 children, you would put 2 on line E. If you have 1 child, you would put 1 on line E. Let's move on to line F. In line F, I want anyone that has any other dependent besides children. Let's say if you take care of a parent, a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, I would like you to put a number for each other dependent that is not your child on line F that you will be claiming on your tax return. Remember, you're telling your employer how to tax you on this form, so you want to be very careful with correlating what you're going to put on your tax return to match what is on this W-4 form. So for line F, for any dependent that is not your child, I would like you to put a number for each dependent. For line G, let's put 0. And for line H, let's total up A through G. The average person is just going to need to fill out this first part on page 3 and submit it to your employer to be able to adjust your weekly or bi-weekly paycheck. Let's move on to part 2. First, let's explain what part 2 wants. Part 2 wants any deductions or adjustments or additional non-wage income. For part 2, if you're not claiming or itemizing deductions, then don't even worry about it. For those of you that do not know, in 2018, the tax law was updated under the Trump GOP tax plan. Under that new tax plan, a lot of the deductions that were able to be claimed prior to, like work uniforms or work-related expenses, a lot of them are not able to be claimed anymore. So for this part, the only people that should be filling this second part out on page 3 are going to be those that are homeowners or those that may have medical expenses above 10% of their total income. That's it. Everyone else, this second part does not apply to you. Let's break it down very simply for those of you that are homeowners and have medical expenses more than 10% of your income. So for line 1, it wants you to enter a total of your itemized deductions. If you're a homeowner, I want you to, on line 1, to put your total amount of real estate taxes. You can also include your real estate taxes plus your state and local taxes, but a lot of the people don't know what their state and local taxes are. So just to make it really simple, on line 1, let's put your real estate taxes. And if you do know what your state and local taxes are, let's add that in there as well. For line 2, it's asking you to put the standard deduction in. For those of you that do not know what a standard deduction is, the government gives you an amount to deduct from your total income every year that's going to give you your taxable income. For example, if I made $100,000 and my filing status is single, then it would be $100,000 minus my standard deduction, $12,200. So that would mean that my total taxable income would be $87,800. Easy example. So it wants you to place what your standard deduction is on line 2 because it wants to make sure that your itemized deductions are greater than your standard deduction. For those of you that do not know, if your itemized deductions is not greater than your standard deduction, then it's not going to make $1 of a difference on your refund. So for line 3, that's what it wants you to do. It wants you to subtract your standard deduction from your itemized deduction. And then it's saying if 0 or less, just enter 0. Let's move on. Very simple. Line 4. Enter an estimate of your 2019 adjustments to income, qualified business income deduction, or any other standard deduction for age or blindness. For line 4, it wants to know any adjustments of your income. The average person is not going to know what adjustments are to their income till it's tax season, so let's just leave line 4 blank to make it simple. It wants you to enter on line 5, it wants you to total lines 3 and 4. Now remember, guys, the only people that are filling this second part out are going to be those that are homeowners or those that have medical expenses more than 10% of your income. For those of you that are filling it out, let's move on to line 6. Line 6, it wants you to enter an estimate of your 2019 non-wage income. So this is other types of income such as stock dividends or interest. For line 7, it wants you to subtract 6 from 5, and if it's less than 0, then enter the amount in parentheses. For line 8, it wants you to divide the amount on line 7 by 4,200 and enter the result here. From 9, it wants you to enter the number from the personal allowance worksheet, which is going to be that line H on that first part. For line 10, it wants you to add lines 8 and 9 and enter a total here. If you plan to use the 2 earners multiple jobs worksheet, also enter this total on line 1 on that worksheet on page 4. So this second part here, guys, is going to require a little bit of math, but again, if you don't fit in that homeowner or 10% of your income goes to medical expenses, you do not need to fill the second part out. And even if you are a homeowner, filling this second part out may not make much of a difference on your weekly paycheck. So if you do not understand how to fill this second part out, let's just leave it blank for now and go ahead and speak to your tax accountant or reach out to us here at StraightTax to be able to help you figure out how to lower your taxable income in general. The entire point of this video is to figure out how we can gain more cash flow and weekly possibly pay less taxes to the government if we don't need to pay them. The point of filling this worksheet out correctly is to be able to tell your employer how to tax you correctly. Remember, guys, if you're getting a refund at the end of the year, that means that you overpaid in taxes for the entire year, and it's now what you overpaid is being refunded to you. So since most people get a refund, that's going to tell you that most people are overpaying on taxes every year. So now with those dynamics, we understand that the more allowances we claim or can claim is going to mean what? The more numbers we put on this top part of the worksheet, the less they're going to take out in taxes weekly. But you have to be careful, because if you put too many allowances and now you're not taking up enough taxes every paycheck, that means you're going to underpay in taxes throughout the year. If you underpay in taxes throughout the year, then you will have a balance due when you file your taxes.